So, as you guys all know, Joe Rogan had on Bernie Sanders on his podcast, and it absolutely blew up. It's at almost 11 million views, I believe. Comments are unbelievably positive. The like to dislike ratio is obviously extremely high. It was a very successful and amazing interview. The guy who actually set that up was Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk. Funny enough. Now, there was this interesting comment that was stated by Joe Rogan. He's speaking to Jimmy Dore. He's speaking to none other than Jimmy Dore here. Let's go ahead and hear him out.
I have requests from all of them.
Really?
Oh yeah, Biden, Warren.
How do you resist
Mayor
that
Pete.
shit?
Because I have my friends. I'd rather talk to my friends.
Yeah, I know. I get a
I
boner.
like Tulsi and I like Bernie. That's it.
Oh yeah?
Everybody else can eat shit.
Look at you, fucking progressive.
Yeah. Well, I've always been.
So there he says that he's got requests from all of the other candidates, those being Biden, Warren, Mayor Pete, which is pretty remarkable, kind of. It's more remarkable to me that he would not be down for that. It's pretty shocking, I guess, because you're talking about, you could really be like running the tables for sort of like a portion of the 2020 election by having these Democratic candidates on your channel, you know what I mean? And you turn that down. That's pretty crazy. I have to say, that's pretty crazy coming from Joe Rogan not to do that, because I actually would hope that he would do an interview with Elizabeth Warren and one with Joe Biden. The reason why I say that, and you can leave Mayor Pete Buttigieg alone, but if he does one with Elizabeth Warren, he can kind of start cross-checking some of the things that Elizabeth Warren has claimed. You guys probably saw Elizabeth Warren on The Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne the God was basically like, you sound kind of like Rachel Dolezal, just kind of making stuff up about your race. And Elizabeth Warren was a Reaganite and a Republican into her 40s, well into her 40s. And so that would be kind of interesting, just for him to be like, hey, like, what's up with, like, just pull out, like, a list of stuff and just grill her on them. That would be hilarious. And Joe Biden, if Joe Biden were in a setting like that, a podcast setting, I think that would be the podcast in which the Joe Biden campaign completely sinks. Okay? I'm talking completely sinks, because if Joe Biden is in a setting of like a 1, 2, 3 hour podcast, whatever it may be, there's no way he can hold up. We've seen the gaffes that he does on the debate stage, the gaffes that he does at his campaign events, which he seems to be doing less and less campaign events, honestly. I never really hear anything from any of them, and that's probably done on purpose, right? The guy has like aneurysms left and right. And so it would be a true gift from God if Joe Biden were to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, because he would self-destruct. He would implode, dude. The guy can barely string together straight sentences. And so I am pleading with Joe, please, please, please have Joe Biden on your podcast. Same thing with Elizabeth Warren. Expose Elizabeth Warren for the snake that she is. Not call out Joe Biden. Just bring him on your fucking podcast, and he will he'll self-destruct, just asking some fairly simple questions. So it would be really awesome if he does that. One other funny thing that people noted, Joe Rogan has had on not just Bernie, but he's also had on Tulsi Gabbard, as he mentioned there. But there's one other person that he's had on. That person is Andrew Yang. And I think he said he's liked Andrew, but if you hear the quote there, he says, I like Tulsi and I like Bernie. Everyone else can eat shit. So he's just telling Andrew Yang, yeah, you can eat shit, bro. Which I think is pretty hilarious. It's also clear to me that Tulsi Gabbard is his number one over Bernie Sanders. Not particularly sure why. Joe seems to have an interesting infatuation with Tulsi Gabbard. Again, not particularly sure why that is. Don't really know. But Bernie Sanders is obviously the better candidate. But, neither here nor there. Joe Rogan did have on Bernie, and that was an incredibly popular podcast. So that was really cool of him to have him on and have this dope podcast and everything. But those are the candidates he says he supports. Now, is Joe Rogan a lefty? He says he's almost a socialist. Is he really almost a socialist? No. Is he left-wing? I would say maybe he's left of center, probably. Is he a centrist? I don't know. Some people say he's a right-winger. I think I would prefer to say, he's, kind of left of center type of stuff. But let me know your thoughts on this down below. Interesting comments coming from my boy Joe Rogan.